Thank you.
Your next question comes from Tim Dickinson with Rolling Stone magazine.
I had a quick question about the mud itself. Is that an organic mud, or is it some sort of synthetic? And then secondarily, the estimates of the flow that BP has been putting out for weeks now have been inaccurate, and as Congressman Markey pointed out yesterday, at variance even with BP's internal documents. So I just wonder if you have an apology to the American people for misleading them.
Well, on your first question about the makeup of the mud, this is a water-based, it's a non-toxic material. So we talked about yesterday, it's really made up of two main ingredients. One is a material called barite, which gives it weight, and the second is viscosifiers, which give it a certain viscosity. But if you wanted more details, I'm sure we can provide those. As to the results of the FRTG, I think since the very beginning, the rate number which we've talked about here at Unified Command has been 5,000 barrels a day. We've always said it was highly uncertain, but that was the number we had as Unified Command. What we have done inside of BP and transmitted to the Coast Guard and to others is we've continued been looking at our estimates and the rate we've done that. I think the piece you're referring to is we showed a piece of analysis which our work showed that it could be as low as 1,000 barrels a day and as high as 14,000 barrels a day. But it's always been highly uncertain, and so I don't believe in any time we have misled anyone on this. We've been quite open about it. The flow's been monitored since the very beginning across this operation, both here in Robert in Houston and elsewhere actually across the country by government officials. And we've been open with our analysis results, but we've always stated, I think, two things. One is it's very, very difficult to know what the number is, and I think you even see with the FRTG report the wide range that they're reporting. And the second thing we've always stressed is it has not changed our response. And in fact, I think Admiral Allen spoke to that earlier today. It is not the basis for sizing the response. It may have implications to other things, but it hasn't been about this response.
Next question.
Your next question comes from David Ferenthold with the Washington Post.
Sorry, I'm wondering about, you talked about how you were going to observe the flow, you were going to pump in the mud and then observe the flow, and then take lessons away from what you saw. From what you see now, do you think that the two first attempts at a top kill made any difference? Is it better in any way now than it was before you started?
You know, that's a question that a lot of people, both inside BP, industry experts, and members of the government have been looking at quite carefully for the last 16 hours. And I think some people believe it has. Some people believe it's less obvious it has, because the main way you can do that is by the visual observation of the plume, and we've just talked about how difficult that is to do. I think what we do know is we have not yet stopped the flow, so the operation hasn't yet achieved its objective. What we do believe we've done is successfully pump some mud, some of this drilling mud into the wellbore, but clearly we need to pump more of that in, and that's why we're making some changes to the operation for its next phase.
Next question.
Your next question comes from Jaquetta White with the Times-Picayune.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I wanted to double check that there has been no pumping today, and also if you could explain why we're still seeing mud come out of the riser pipe if that's the case. And then also, do you know how much mud has been pumped so far, and if there's any indication of what percentage is going in and what percentage is escaping? And then finally, if you can explain what's in the bridging agents, if it's separate from the makeup of a junk shot.
The first part of your question, which I was asking about what we're observing, we have not pumped today as of the start of this press conference. We had not yet pumped any mud. I think the pumping ended somewhere around 11 p.m. I don't have the precise time, but around 11 p.m. last night. What you're seeing come out of the riser is a combination of some drilling mud and then, of course, the oil and gas that's been coming out before. I don't know precisely what mix, but we clearly pumped a lot of mud into the well, and some of that is flowing back. But it's very, very difficult to know that. As far as percentages, we don't know. We do know a large volume of mud came out the end of the riser that was very visible during the operation, and actually we have a lot of that sediment around the equipment, and it clearly obstructed the visibility. I've already forgotten the last question. Bridging. The makeup of the bridging agents. These things are everything from the kind of materials used in the junk shot that we've talked about before to also other plating materials. So what we have the industry has a wide range of materials to use, from very, very small in diameter and fibrous to very large things like rubber balls, very, very dense rubber balls to plug things up. We have the entire range available to us, and it's the experts on the job who will be determining in what order to pump these based on what they believe is occurring in the well.
Next question.
Your next question comes from Angel Gonzalez with Dow Jones.
Hi. I just wanted to reconfirm that what we see in the image right now is mud or this combination of material flowing back from the well. It seems to me that the high pressure, the sort of jets of material that we're seeing are coming out at a really high pressure from the wellbore. Is that correct? Because if you haven't been pumping today, that pressure must come down from the earth, right?
Yeah, the flow coming out the time. If you recall, we've had for several weeks now. We've had the flow coming out from two locations. One's the very end of the riser, what many people refer to as the plume, but it's the larger amount. The majority of the flow comes out at that point. And then at what's called the riser bend, which is right at the top of the well, right at the top of the blowout preventer and its associated equipment. And there's 4 specific spots in that bend where fluid is exiting. That fluid right now, it will be a combination of oil and gas and some drilling mud undoubtedly. It's hard to know precisely how much is coming out of that, but that's what's occurring. The pressures that it's coming out at, we don't believe are any different than they've always been, and it is the pressures from down within the wellbore is what's pushing all of this oil and gas and anything else that's coming up with it out.
Operator, we have time for 2 more questions.
Your next question comes from Carol Rosenberg with the Miami Herald newspaper.
Thank you for taking the call. Sir, ma'am, when Admiral Allen tells us that the mud was suppressing the hydrocarbons, does that mean it was slowing the rate of the oil and gas leak? And are you telling us you ran out of mud? Is that what happened?
No. Well, the first part of your question is actually during the job we clearly did while we were pumping. We clearly had suppressed the amount of oil and gas coming out. But what we have to be able to do is suppress it to the point it won't restart flowing. So clearly during the pumping operation we were suppressing the amount of oil and gas coming out, and if that's what Admiral Allen said, that's actually exactly what occurred. But that operation, until such time as we've got the well so it can no longer flow to surface, it isn't complete. So that's what we must do to finish the job.
And did you run out of mud?
Oh, no, we didn't run out of mud. Someone asked earlier, and I don't believe I ever got back to it, how much did we pump in total? I don't have the exact figure. I think it was somewhere less than 15,000 barrels. We have a total of about 50,000 barrels available to us. It was in different quantities, but of course before we go to the next pumping operation we want to make sure we have sufficient volume to finish the next pumping phase. So while we were analyzing what we did, we've restocked these vessels so we had a full complement for the next phase.
Thank you.
Last question, please.
Your final question comes from Paula Dietrich with the Oil and Gas Journal.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I wondered if you could tell me about at what rate the mud is being pumped in. I know there was mention before of how much horsepower you had.
Yes, once again, I just stress that the equipment has worked very, very well since the beginning. We pumped at rates as high as almost 70 barrels a minute, between 65 and 70 barrels per minute, which is a very, very high rate. And we still have that capability, but we've also gone to very, very low rates as well as we've worked on the job. And so I think the point to stress here is the equipment we brought to the location, and we have triple redundancy in this operation, is working very well.